I would like to talk about Fisher's view on narrations and how he states that humans are naturally storytellers and how we're more likely to believe a good story rather than a good argument. Growing up, I find this very true. When I don't know much about the world because I haven't had much experience, if I got in trouble or something and my parents wanted me to not do something again, they're going to tell me a story about how they did something back then and how they had negative outcomes from it and to try and get me to not do it again. And I mean, it worked because I was obviously going to believe a personal story that they told me rather than anything that has logic in it because I had no experience. I was only, 10 years old. And then, kind of as we get older, I think we develop the narrative rationality that Fisher talks about, and which is essentially just like a standard and a group of standards that you're going to use to judge a narrative and how true it is and things like that. And he talks about how you're going to base that off of coherence and fidelity, which is ultimately making sure that the storyteller didn't leave anything out of the story and the credibility of the story, so the logic of good reasons behind the story. And I think that's so true when you're going through life and people are constantly going to be telling you stories, and some of them are going to be believable, some of them aren't, and you just have to go through this logical reasoning of, is this story really true, and especially if it's going to influence any further decisions that you make. My parents have, constantly told me about drinking and driving and things like that. And, back then when they told me their personal stories, I believed them. But, as you get older, it's like, I really don't think that ever happened. They were just trying to persuade me to not drink and drive. And then now, you go through this narrative rationality and I go through like the credibility and is it really factual? Have any of the facts been distorted? The patterns of reasoning, things like that I'm going to go through now when people try and tell me stories. And sometimes it's all out of good intentions, but you never know. So my only advice would be to, before you make any rational decisions based on a story somebody tells you, go through this set of standards, to judge the story and make sure it's something that's legitimate instead of something somebody is making up. Because like Fisher said, we're all storytellers and humans are naturally just going to tell stories. And so just make sure that you go through this list of rational, the logic of good reasons and, make sure you're making a good judgment of the story.